Brother lads, welcome back to the Cossy Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. Welcome back to brand new video. This is the latest Arsenal news and transfer news. It's a bit of breaking story. Arsenal and Ben Sesko, it is progressing. There's a lot to talk about on this still, but I want us to dive into the breaking story from John Cross from the Mirror, confirming that Benjamin Sesko has now agreed to join the Arsenal project if Arsenal can agree a deal between them and RB Leipzig. Big story because earlier on today I had reported that he was made top of the list. He was made the most wanted player at Arsenal in terms of a centre forward. Now, just a few hours later, from John Cross, it is being confirmed that Arsenal have now the green light from Ben Sesko to actually go ahead and bid, for him. As well, we've got to talk about the pricing because he's got a release clause of around 56 million, but Arsenal are not 100% willing to just go and obliterate that fee. They actually want to negotiate. So Arsenal are planning to go in there with around 45 million pounds. That is the initial. I presume that is the initial price Arsenal want to deal with. And then if RB Leipzig cannot agree, to that deal, then definitely we're going to see something, something different later on. So let's dive into the agreement, what this agreement means, what this story means, and because he's got that, he's got the Euros coming up, and Mikel Arteta would love to sign his players right before the Euros. This might be a major story. This might be the beginning of Arsenal's transfer window. Obviously, our financial year ends, I think that's tomorrow, and the new financial year begins on the 1st of June. So you never know. You never know. We could be talking about a potential big deal happening on the next week or in the next 2 weeks. You never know. But I want your thoughts in the comment box below on Benjamin Sesko. Make sure you've subscribed. For you to be able to comment, you have to be a subscriber. So hit the like button and subscribe, because that's the only way you'll get in your thoughts in the comment box below. What do you think about Ben Sesko? What do you think about him in terms of the next striker that Arsenal could go out there, and sign? What do you think about him in terms of competing with Erling Haaland and Arsenal closing the gap? What do you think about him, right? Because I thought, and we all wanted, a striker that can help Arsenal to close the gap, a striker that can help Arsenal to bridge the gap between us and Manchester City. They have Erling Haaland, they have Julian Alvarez, and they have so many players that could score goals. Like Phil Foden this season, he's been absolutely insane. So when you have a player like Saka, who is really consistent for the last 3 years, Saka has been really consistent in terms of giving us the numbers, GA, goals and assists. You might need one more player. Now, that could be Kai Havertz. For all we know, his first season has been the best in his life. He's never had such numbers at Leverkusen. He's never had such numbers at Chelsea. So we might be talking about a potential reliable goal scorer in Kai Havertz, right? But Arsenal still thought something was missing. And right from January, Arsenal have been talking about a striker. Arsenal have been talking about a number 9. So just like the fans, the club also think there is something missing here. We could add something. We could go and bring in a striker that can add some 20 goals to the club. If we've been scoring 88 to 90 goals, maybe Ben Sesko is the guy that comes in and Arsenal cross over to 99 goals or maybe 100 goals, right? You never know. So is Ben Sesko for you, 20 years of age, from Slovenia, 1 season at RB Leipzig. He's done very well under the RB Leipzig umbrella, obviously coming in from the Red Bull Salzburg in Austria and then crossing over to Germany. Do you think he is the striker that Arsenal should have gone for? And is he the striker that you would have wanted? We've been linked with a couple of them, but is he the right option? Now, the story from John Cross is very, very detailed, and I like the fact that he's gone with a very detailed, exclusive story. And it says, exclusive, Benjamin Sesko says yes to Arsenal transfer as Gunners line up a 45 million deal. And it says RB Leipzig striker Ben Sesko is being courted by a host of clubs, including Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, while there is strong interest from Italy as well. But Arsenal now appear to be in pole position for the 45 million rated forward, as the Slovenia international prefers moving to Arsenal after finding himself at the center of a transfer battle. That is a huge boost to the Gunners, with Mikel Arteta eyeing a young striker who can develop and work in tandem with Kai Havertz, who has been a revelation for Arsenal last summer. His agent Elvis Bosanic has been to Arsenal matches this season, and Sesko, who turns 21 on Friday, would be a very, very good fit at Arsenal, according to what John Cross from the Mirror's information tells him. So this is Ben Sesko. If you don't know him, if you've not seen him, this is Ben Sesko. Young player, very energetic. He runs a lot, and he's got an eye for goal. Now, for me, in terms of his profile as a striker, I don't have a problem with him, because he's not one of these strikers that you've got to defend in how they play. He's actually a center forward. So, and that's one of the things I like about him. I don't think if you signed a player like Gabriel Jesus, let's use Gabriel Jesus because we already have him. When you think about Gabriel Jesus, what is his strongest part of his game? What is the strongest part of Gabriel Jesus' game? It's not goals. It is not positioning in the penalty area. It's actually pressing and probably creativity and bringing other players into play, right? That is the biggest game. That's the biggest part of Gabriel Jesus' game. Now, with Ben Sesko, I want to, I want to let you know about his profile. His profile is a young, brilliant striker, a striker that has got a lot of pace, a striker that is very good at positioning, and a striker that has a big ceiling. We are talking about a Rasmus Hojlund kind of striker. If you've seen Rasmus Hojlund at Manchester United, we're talking about that kind of player. And I think the world is getting introduced to these young strikers more and more and more, almost on a very, on a seasonal basis. We're seeing this type of striker. They are very good when it comes to pace. They're very powerful. So he's going to really be a real center forward. And they can do a couple of other things. Now, I don't think he is one of those players that come in and you're like, he can play in midfield, he can play on the wings. I don't think he's that kind of player, right? Because he's got the pace and maybe the technical ability, we can use him in a system where he's playing with Kai Havertz, and we're going to talk about him and Kai Havertz, because I think that is the major reason why Arsenal are going for him, right? And John Cross actually talks about it there, that they want someone who can work in tandem with Kai Havertz. They want someone who can work together with Kai Havertz. And that is what Ben Sesko is offering. And that's why he's quickly moved from option number 4 or option number 5, if he was ever there, to the top target. And I think it is something to be really, really considered. So for me, he's a striker. Typical striker. The profile is a striker. I don't expect him to come and we see him as a left winger, as a right winger. We might see him in those positions as Mikel Arteta maybe tries to find the combinations. But in the end, when you compare him to all the players at Arsenal, if he comes in right now, he is the best striker at the club, honestly. And I don't think, I'm not saying this is the best option Arsenal could have gone for. I'm not saying because he's better than anyone at the club at the moment, so he was definitely the right option, because anyone could be better than what we have at Arsenal in terms of a center forward. So he comes in, he's the best finisher, he's the best number 9 we have at the club. Does he start right away? I don't think that's what Arsenal are looking at. I don't think we are going to see him start every single game. I think we are at a level now where we can have 45 million pounds on the bench, waiting for Kai Havertz maybe to come off, or maybe waiting for a Martin Odegaard to come off, or maybe a Declan Rice to come off, and then Kai Havertz drops into midfield and Sesko comes on. So I think in the first season, he's one of those players that we might see come onto the pitch for 30 minutes, 35 minutes, or 40 minutes, or even less than that. Just to fill in, just to be part of that squad. And then as time goes on, he will establish himself as a real center forward, and he will become, a dangerous striker for Arsenal. So there's a lot to talk about him, but I like the way the deal is progressing. Right now, I said this yesterday with Ben Sesko and many of the players we're linked with. You don't really have to negotiate much with the club, right? Unless you don't want to pay the release clause. You don't have to negotiate much with the club. It's always about, can you agree? Can you get the green light, from the player? As much as we know from Fabrizio, the club, there's so many clubs that have been interested in Sesko. I think, Saudi Arabian offers are already on the table. He's turned them down. There is interest from Italy. There's interest from Chelsea and a couple of other clubs. But Leipzig have been there, have been his priority, and there were more sources claiming that if he's not going to move to the Premier League, it's because he wants at least one more year or at least another 2 seasons at RB Leipzig. And I said it again, that I don't see him stay at RB Leipzig. I don't see a world where he snubs the Premier League to stay at RB Leipzig. I look at him as the kind of player that can actually play at a team like West Ham, who are looking for a number 9, a team like Tottenham, who are looking for a number 9. They've got that James Maddison. So it's all about selling the project to the player. If he agrees to join you, then you stand a bigger chance to sign him, because then the rest of the work is just triggering the release clause, just like Liverpool did with Dominic Soboslai. If you can talk to the player, get him to agree to play with you, the rest of it is just going to the bank and triggering that release clause and paying the money in the bank for RB Leipzig, and then it's a deal done, right? It's an easy deal in terms of what Mikel Arteta wants. An early signing, a striker that will join the club a little bit earlier on before preseason, so that by the time we get into preseason, we have already signed him. I think that is the right profile. That is the right player, for us to go for in terms of, an early signing. Now, I have my problems with Ben Sesko. Yes, if he comes in, he is the best finisher at the club. Understood. If he comes in, he's one of the, players to beat at the club. Understood. But I still have my problems with Ben Sesko, and we're going to talk about them. Brian says, nice. This is nice. Eunice says, I don't really know more about him. Now, Ben Sesko is just 20. He's coming in from Slovenia. And if you want to watch more about him or know more about him, let us wait for him at the Euros that start in the next 15 days. He's going to be playing for Slovenia in the same group as England, right? So even though you might not be interested in watching Slovenia, you will be interested in watching England, and that is where we are going to actually see more of Benjamin Sesko. But the information I can give you, at least one season he's played at one season he's played at RB Leipzig, and he has been really not bad, because he scored for them 14 times in 31 appearances. That is actually not bad in terms of him as a striker. I wouldn't say that's a bad deal. But I also want us to look at his numbers before joining RB Leipzig, because then again, a couple of clubs wanted him before joining RB Leipzig. So the season that brought him to the German Bundesliga, he had played 30 games and he had scored 16 goals and assisted 3 times, right? And the season before that, he had played 24 games and he had scored 5 times and assisted 1 time. So he's such a young player. He's just 20. I mean, you don't expect a lot of data on such a player, especially in terms of, has he played 8 seasons, 9 seasons at the top? No, right? And I think that's where Arsenal have really gone for him. He's so young that you can groom him and socialize the principles you want in him for the next 2 years or 3 years before him becoming the juggernaut of a striker that he might actually become. Because we've been told his ceiling is high. We've been told the mega projects like Man United 2 years ago that wanted to sign him. So you can see that there's so many scouts around him. There's so many, people who think that he's such a good player, right? So there's nothing much about him. He's still a young player. And if Arsenal gets him in, they're signing him for the future rather than what he can do right now or what he has done, already. Majara says very important news coming in. They're going to make my night. Yeah, it's a good story. It's a good story. I wouldn't really say it's not a good story. It's a very good story. I mean, earlier on in the window for you to get an agreement from a player, and the player was not going to be expensive. I bet Arsenal have 50 million to sign Ben Sesko, right? And if we're going to go in with around 45 million, not official bid yet, but if we're going to go in with around 45 million, that is not very far away from the valuation that RB Leipzig have put in their release clause. Now, they don't want to sell, I'm told, but they will be open to listen to offers if those offers are actually good enough, right? So if you get the agreement of the player, and you still have a lot of time to negotiate his release clause so that it comes down. If it fails, you just trigger it. So this is the most important story when it comes to the Benjamin Sesko transfer saga. For me, it's the most important step, because if you don't have the agreement on the player side, regardless of how much you have, regardless of how much money you're offering, you cannot sign him. It's evident Saudi Arabia are crazy about him. They think he is a player they would love to sign, but the player doesn't want them. The player doesn't want Saudi Arabia. The player wants to stay in Europe, right? So I think Arsenal have just moved miles, really, really big miles, in terms of beating the competition, right? In terms of beating the competition, this is our biggest story. So yeah, it's a very good story. David says, "How true is this, Cossy?" John Cross has got his own sources around Arsenal. I don't think he's one of those guys that publish nonsense. I've not reported one single story from John Cross, and it is a nonsense story. So I think this is very true. And also, it comes in after 24 hours of us confirming that Ben Sesko is Arsenal's #1 target now. And you can see that all the other stories and all the other striker links have actually died. Gyökeres, the stories have died. Isak, the stories have died. Osimhen and Ivan Toney, the stories died a long time ago. So it seems like it's going to be Sesko. And I think it's going to be Sesko. So this is true. This is very true. Now, this doesn't mean the deal is done. And also, this doesn't mean that Arsenal cannot lose this deal. We know that, a Chelsea can come in and also agree personal terms. We know that another club can come in and work faster than Arsenal. So if Arsenal want to get this deal done, we better act quickly, because he's one of the most, adorable striker assets on the market right now. Like think about this. How many clubs are looking for a striker right now? Tottenham need one desperately. Chelsea, I'm sorry for Chelsea, but they do have Christopher Nkunku, and it's very interesting to see whether they will want to add another, serious striker other than Nicholas Jackson. But Chelsea are also in the market for a striker. We are told Man United also want a striker. We are told Arsenal also want a striker. Obviously, we want a striker. Barcelona might need one, and all of these clubs that I'm talking about might not be able to spend hundreds of millions on that position, or might not be willing to spend hundreds of millions on that position. So you've got to take the opportunity that is available on the market, and it's Ben Sesko. Let me think of any other striker that is as cheap as Sesko. Let's say Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Do you want Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Talk to me in the comment box below. Do you want Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Because he might be cheaper than Sesko, but do you want him? Talk to me. Dominic Solanke. He might be cheaper than Sesko. Do you want Dominic Solanke? Tell me in the comment box below. So when you think about the strikers that are cheap and available, Sesko is like a golden apple. Like a golden apple. This boy, if it is not for the release clause that he has in the contract of, in his contract at RB Leipzig, one, he wouldn't be available. Second, he would be going for a king's ransom. Honestly, we'll be talking about maybe 60 plus million. But the fact that we might get him at 45, it's an absolute joke. Just imagine Sesko replacing Edin Ketia for 45 million pounds. And I also think that Gabriel Jesus is going to be utilized in other positions. So we are bringing in a striker who, number one, replaces Gabriel Jesus, who is a failed striker project, I'm sorry to say. And then Edin Ketia, who, in my opinion, we gave big wages, and it's time for us to suffer with that this summer. But again, he's better than Edin Ketia, and in terms of being clinical in front of goal, he's a much better player than Gabriel Jesus. So I think it's a good deal. I think it would be a massively good deal. Now, David says, how much will Arsenal have to spend this summer? We're hearing 200 million, so might be, it might be around there. Meta says, good job. Colin says, wow, that's very good news. Cossy says, Arsenal need to go back to its traditional formation, which is a 4-4-2 formation. Kai Havertz needs a backup up front. Well, the problem with the 4-4-2, and when you think about, and when you talk about formations, you've got to talk about players and profiles. The thing with the 4-4-2 is that, I mean, you could use it. There's no problem. You can use it, right? But if you have Kai Havertz and Ben Sesko in the team, right? Kai Havertz up top and Benjamin Sesko up top, you're losing something. You either keep not keeping both of your wingers, who could be Martinelli or and Saka, or you're losing something in midfield. Remember, we play with a midfield three. And I don't think that should be changing. I don't think that's going to change. I think we'll have a Declan Rice in midfield. I think we'll have a Martin Odegaard in midfield. And I think we'll have a number 6, either Thomas Partey or Jorginho. That's not going to change, right? So Saka is nailed on. Okay. So if you want Sesko and Kai Havertz to play together, then it means either of Trossard and both Trossard and Gabriel Martinelli are out of the starting 11. If you want a 4-4-2, you've got to sacrifice. So also, as you said that we should go back to a traditional 4-4-2, you should tell us where we should be sacrificing and who we should be sacrificing in that Arsenal setup. Okay. King says, Cossy, where do you get your information from? If it's true, this guy is the next big thing. We actually need, players like Olise, Guimaraes, Brahim Diaz, and Sesko. Okay, Premier League and Champions League for the Premier League and the Champions League. I like Brahim Diaz. I really do. I think he's such a quality player. Bruno Guimaraes, I like. Michael Olise, I like him too. And Sesko is definitely, your player that Arsenal are really eyeing at the moment. Ripper says Sesko is good. Okay, Bade says I don't really know him. Maybe you can tell us more, please. So I don't know. I don't know how to paint the real picture of Benjamin Sesko, right? But the first thing I'm going to do is to display, him on the screen for another time. This is Ben Sesko. He comes from Slovenia. He's 20 years of age. He's played 1 season at RB Leipzig and 3 seasons at Red Bull Salzburg in Austria. Last season, he was one of the very exciting talents in Europe in terms of center forwards. He actually scored 14 goals in 30 games. He's one of the strikers in the later part of the season that was very consistent. He actually scored or assisted, for RB Leipzig in every game they played in the German Bundesliga, since January. So that is Ben Sesko. I don't know if I've done a good job, explaining to you who he is, but that is who he is. He's such a quality talent, right? But he's not the finished product. He's not a striker that Arsenal sign and everyone is like, whoa, they've signed Sesko. He's not Lautaro Martinez level. He's not Victor Osimhen level. He's not, who else would you think about in terms of a quality striker? He's not that. But he's in the second tier. He's among the strikers that Arsenal would sign or Arsenal are going to sign, and they can develop into a world-class talent. Everyone thinks he's going to develop into a world-class talent. Man United wanted him, I think, before Erik ten Hag, and they didn't get the deal done. So it looks like, RB Leipzig are going to be making some money this summer off him. So look, if you want more information about him, then I'll definitely do that for you. But this is a breaking story, and I thought we would actually run through it very, very quickly with you guys. Okay, let's see. Lots of comments from you guys. Hit the like button. Thank you so much for joining me live. Offer says Benjamin Sesko is a good striker, young and very talented. And then Rafi says, I love him. He's such a good player. I mean, the good thing is that some people know about him in the comment box. King says, we, the fans, can only say good luck. Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a very, very good point. Because you've got to back the players that the club bring in, right? You've got to back the players that assigned by the club. Because the Mikel Arteta project, and why I trust it actually, is we've not done many wrong signings that are high profile. Yes, Tavares. I don't think Tavares was the wrong profile. I think he was too raw. And for his role at Arsenal, I think by then Arsenal still had, his role at Arsenal, because in that summer, Arsenal also brought in, I think, was he brought in before or after Alexander Zichenko? Let me see. That was, I think that was after Alexander Zichenko, right? So you look at his profile and you're like, this is what the manager wanted. Kind of an explosive fullback, right? So we needed that kind of profile. And the Arsenal have now evolved past that profile. I think the wrong signings that we made, I think Lokonga was wrongly scouted, maybe. But again, the talent is there. We've seen that he's such a quality player. So I think I would back him. I don't think he's a player that I would come in and I sniff away. I would back him. I'll be 100% behind him. As an Arsenal player, 100% behind him. Okay, let's see. What more of you are saying? We really, really need a physical, aggressive striker. Our attacking is very okay, but these guys overwork to score goals, which drains our team. I don't know about Ben Sesko. I don't know much about Ben Sesko. We really need an aggressive striker. This is what you're saying. Okay, that is Albert. Aggressive for me might not be the word only, right? I think aggression should be part of it. A striker who can bully, Erling Haaland type. I agree with you there, but not only an aggressive player. A smart player as well up top is very much needed, and a pacey player up top is very much needed as well, and a real center forward. I think aggressive, I'm not really sure he is as aggressive as a Gabriel Jesus or an Erling Haaland. I don't think he's going to push you and drag you. I don't think he's that kind of player, and I don't think his physicality is that. But that could be coached in him, right? It depends on the profile Arsenal looking at, and depends on the qualities Mikel Arteta is willing to tolerate in his striker. So let's wait and see what's going to come out of there. Sunny says, sign him. He would be a good striker. Okay. And then Ofo says, I wish Arsenal can go for this young man as soon as possible before rivals start sending in offers. Okay. Okay, Ivan from Sorrow says, I prefer Sesko to Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Solanke. Yeah, I mean, anyone should. Cossy, thanks for the show. We can spend a lot on the other, on the striker, but at the end, flops. But the end, he flops. Let's go with him. Okay, Sam says, thanks, man, for the show. Though I'm among those who believe in Arteta, though he makes some mistakes and he makes us lose trophies at some times. Kiza says we're just waiting. They are delaying even. Let that boy come, Cossy. I love you, but I was disappointed of losing the trophy. Everybody was disappointed when we didn't win the trophy. Now, I want to put this into context, right? This is where we are with Ben Sesko, and tomorrow I'll have a video out explaining the whole transfer for Ben Sesko. But at the moment, where I would say we have had Sesko now, I would say, consolidated as the top priority at Arsenal. We have had Ben Sesko now agreeing to join Arsenal, and now we are waiting for Arsenal to make a move to RB Leipzig. RB Leipzig value the player at around £60 million. Arsenal want to go in and sign him for around £45 million. So there is a £15 million difference in valuation. I don't think this is the kind of deal that Arsenal should be over negotiating, because it's Ben Sesko and everyone wants him, right? So I think it's a deal that could progress quickly. It's a deal that could happen within the next 7 days. It's a deal that could happen before the Euros come in, right? And like I think I was talking about the early signings Arsenal could do, and I said Ben Sesko is definitely one of them. You can trigger his release clause. You can agree personal terms all within 1 week. So that is where we are. It's not a done deal. It is not 90% done or 80% done or 50% done. I think at the moment, we can say Arsenal have made 40% progress on Benjamin Sesko. The player favors a move to Arsenal, and we have the green light. So if we go on to trigger the release clause, that would jump our chances from 40% to 80% or even to 80%, right? As long as no other club comes in for Sesko, which is highly unlikely. But as long as no other club comes in for Ben Sesko, he's going to be an Arsenal player. He will be an Arsenal player. Shadrach says, Cossy, where is Glenn? Now, my show with Glenn is coming up a little bit later on because of the breaking story. It should have premiered today at 8, but I'm sorry. We had this story and I wanted to keep you informed. I wanted us to be the first channel to break this story, although I've seen AFTV do it as well. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. We are very close to 80,000 subscribers, and if you want to comment and you cannot comment, it's because it's the subscriber only mode. Make sure you do subscribe and you'll be able to get your thoughts in. Lovely says, I have just been watching his skills. That guy is very much talented. Well, the talent is there. The talent is there, right? If you appreciate talent, Sesko is talented. Kando says Arsenal need a striker who is a bully and versatile. Victor says, yes, Cossy, Sesko is a good finisher, but Gyökeres is a much better option as we really need trophies coming in next season. Yeah, Gyökeres would be the much better option, wouldn't he? He's 25. He's in his prime. He has scored like 50 goals, across the last 2 seasons, and he is aggressive. He is absolutely aggressive, right? But I doubt he's going to be joining Arsenal anytime soon. Victor Gyökeres. Frederick says Gyökeres would be a much better option compared to Sesko. Sesko is not bad. He's not a bad player, but physical, aggressive striker who can. But we need a physical, aggressive striker who can bully defenders. Still, that's according to Kando or Candola, I think, Jackson. Kiza says, I think this boy can work for us. He can grow with the project. Bubu says Bruno would have been the first priority. Hope Sesko is better than Gabriel Jesus. Yeah, there's a lot. Listen, is he better than Gabriel Jesus? Jesus has won trophies at Man City, and he's made a name for himself as one of the most aggressive strikers out there in the Premier League, right? So, again, Gabriel Jesus, respect to him. But we see, right? We will see. Time will tell whether he's actually better than Gabriel Jesus. But at the moment, in terms of in front of goal, if you ask me who would I want to have in a 1v1 against the goalkeeper, Benjamin Sesko. Who would I want to have when it comes to one opportunity? If we have one opportunity, who would I want that opportunity to fall to? Ben Sesko, not Gabriel Jesus, right? I don't trust Gabriel Jesus finishing, and everybody knows why. And I don't think so many people actually trust the finishing skills of Gabriel Jesus. That doesn't mean he's a bad striker. That doesn't mean he's actually a bad player. I mean, he's just got to work on his finishing, and he would be a much better striker than he is at the moment. Now, the downside on Ben Sesko is he is raw. He's a very, very raw striker. He's a very, very raw player. We are talking about a player who's just 20. That is raw talent. That's not a lot of experience if you compared him to maybe Victor Gyökeres, who's 25. If you compared him to Lautaro Martinez, who is 25, 26 as well. If you compared him to maybe an Osimhen, who is 22, 23. He's still very young. Like, he's younger than to put that into perspective, he's younger than Martinelli. He's younger than Saka. And I don't think he adds pedigree and experience to the side. So that's one of the downsides. And maybe one of the things I was looking at this summer is that Arsenal could have gone with someone who's a little bit experienced in different areas. In midfield, we could have done with a little bit of experience. In attack, we could have done with a little bit of experience. In defense, we could have done with a little bit of experience, and also in the goalkeeping department. So you're not getting experience from him. He's such a raw player, raw talent. And with raw players and raw talent, one thing we have seen and known is they are still developing. So he's still a developing striker. He's going to get used to the Premier League. That will take some time. He's going to get used to playing at the topmost level. That's going to take some time. And I think as a striker, as a 20-year-old striker, he's going to make mistakes that a 25-year-old or 27-year-old wouldn't actually make. Now, does that make him undesirable now? No, it doesn't. Every player has got a downside. Every player has got a disadvantage when you sign him. But with Sesko, because he's young, you don't have that experience. You don't have that killer that comes in just to do the job. So if you look at Barcelona winning the Premier, the La Liga last season, but one, 2 seasons back, Robert Lewandowski was such a key player. But before that, Madrid had won the La Liga, and Benzema had been a very key player in terms of scoring very, very many goals and very crucial moments, in very crucial moments and very, very crucial goals. When I look at this Arsenal sign, and I'm like, is Benjamin Sesko, if we added Ben Sesko to Arsenal last summer, right? So if we add him to our team last season, does he win us the Premier League? Could he have been the difference in games like Aston Villa, in games like Fulham, in games like West Ham? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think his signing and his transfer would be more of a transfer that is already at the same level where we are, might not raise us very much, and it doesn't take us down very much. So he's not an 18-year-old striker who is, green about what to do. He knows what to do. He's a center forward that has, been playing for 3 consecutive seasons and has been getting the numbers for 3 consecutive seasons. But he's not the guy that raises the level. And we were told by Team News and Text that Arsenal looking to sign a level raiser, but it's not going to be a striker. It's going to be a midfielder. They're looking to sign a midfielder as their level raiser, not a striker. Okay. Glenn, Glenn, how are you doing, Glenn? Hope you're doing fine, bro. This should have been our show. This should have been our show, but I've hijacked it. I'm sorry. Carlos says Gabriel has his strengths. We need a striker that can finish. I trust Mikel Arteta. If our coach sees potential in him, I trust the process. Look at what he did with Kai Havertz. Well, that means you also trust. That means also trust Marcus Rashford. Harrison says, "Nice show, bro. Keep it up. Thank you so much for the love, Harrison." Sam says Joshua Zirkzee. Well, Joshua Zirkzee, by the way, is one player that doesn't impress me. Now, I am not really intrigued about his presence. I'm not intrigued about his talent. Now, I think there is talent there, and I think there is a player there, right? But when I factor into what Arsenal are looking for, when I think about what Arsenal need and what Arsenal want, I wouldn't go for Joshua Zirkzee. I wouldn't really go for Joshua. Like, I don't think it's about player. Like, I think it's too raw for me. I would rather even him not come to the Premier League. If I was his agent, I would let him stay in Italy and not come to the Premier. It's too raw for me. I just don't like his. I don't like his game. Honestly, I can't lie. I don't like his game. I don't think he strikes me as this is your center forward. I don't think he does. I really, really don't think he does. Like, no, not really. To take him, Zirkzee, I would rather take Solanke if the price was okay. Because Solanke, when I've seen Solanke, he strikes you as your center forward. The thing with Solanke is that he's destined for the mid-table clashes, right? He's a Brighton player, Brentford, Bournemouth. That is where, that is his level. But Joshua Zirkzee, no. I don't want to be harsh, but I'm not really convinced about Joshua Zirkzee. Not convinced about him. Asari says, "Well done, Cossy. I'm watching from London, and I enjoy your podcast. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much." David says, "Sesko or Brobby are the best options, considering we have Kai, who is going to be leading the line. Yeah, you are you've just nailed it on. I don't think we're looking for a Kai replacement. We are looking someone who can be supportive to Kai Havertz. And I think either Broby or Sesko, one of them would do a fantastic job, in that regard. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm going to be dropping my video with Glenn. Please make sure you are watching. It's going to be coming out in an hour's time. Basically in an hour's time, but an hour and a half. So make sure you are subscribed and you are tuned in for that one. We're gonna be discussing Arsenal strikers still, right? There's a big debate on whether Gyökeres or Martinez would be the best fit for Arsenal. But for me, Lautaro Martinez would be a much better option than all the players we've been linked with. But of course, we were talking about that yesterday night, and that should be coming out very, very soon. Hit the like button, subscribe to the podcast, and for now, have a very good evening.